I want to welcome you to this room, which is our home base. Not loud enough? It's really just energizing to see this group come together on this beautiful Sunday afternoon right here in downtown Norwood.
Yeah.
And I think it exemplifies, I think the key word is energy. The energy that we have seen that started on a woeful day in November of 2016. But nobody laid down. Everybody just started stepping up, and we've seen that energy grow. And working with the party, with the Indivisibles, with Turn PA Blue, we can see it turning around. We saw it last year in the midterms and in a lot of the state house and state senate races. This year we're going to start picking off school boards, and Delaware County looks like it's ready to turn, so let's hear it for that.
Yay!
Speaking of Delaware County, I know Colleen Guiney's in the house, so say hi to Colleen. And from Montgomery County, Joe Foster, my chair, is in the house. Say hi to Joe. And surprise, I didn't know Chester County was going to be here, but say hello to them as well. So the fact is that no one of us can do it alone, but together we can really make this happen. It's this energy that makes it happen. And speaking of energy, I'm going to turn it over to the Energizer Bunny herself,
yes.
Nancy Kleinberg.
Hi, everybody. I'm so thrilled you're here. There are people that I've known for about 2 years now, and there's a lot of new faces, which I'm really happy about, because one of our goals is to get more people energized. And I know that you're passionate, or you wouldn't be here on a Sunday afternoon. I just want to say, no exactly apologizing, but I'm sick. I may lose my voice, but that could be a blessing for you. Everyone has an index card. I decided not to do sign-ins. I'd like you to put your name, your address, your cell phone, and your email address. Also, I just want you to know that this format is not going to be questions and answers, but if you have questions, suggestions, vehement disagreements with what I say, anything, write them down on your card, and I promise you I will answer or hand it off to someone who can answer your question. And I'm going to be collecting those cards at the end, and no one will get out without handing me a card. Okay. Yes. Huh? Oh, turn phones off. Please. Sorry.
Oh, yes.
Also, I don't enjoy when I go to meetings and people just read off the PowerPoint. So hopefully you can listen to me and take a look at that at the same time. That's kind of what we're going to be covering today. My thrust will be where we were, where we are now, and this is all as I see it, which could be right or wrong, but I'll give it my best shot, and where we have to go to get where we want to get in 2019, 2020, and most important, what each of you can do to make that happen, because it's not going to happen without you. So, I think we would agree that our biggest priority is to elect a Democrat to the presidency in 2020. That's the most crucial thing, and let's not take anything for granted. I feel like I obsess over this, and one of the reasons that I do so much is actually to keep myself from crying, screaming, curling up in a fetal position. I just have to keep going because what is happening is so horrible, which I'm not going to go over. I'm sure you're keeping up with it. So you'll be thrilled to know that Russia has a plan for our election, and it's to secure the base and to split the opposition. And to be clear, you're the opposition, and they have the conservative media helping them with this, all on board, and a lot of the White House staff and executive branch and the Congress are helping them. So it's our job to really stay united. I'll read this. Let's distinguish between friends with whom we have differences and our mortal enemies.
Amen.
Let's prove the Republicans wrong in their belief that Democrats will kill the good for the benefit of the perfect. So let's take that in and let's say that to all our friends because it's pretty important. And just so you know, you can go online and Google Indivisible Pledge and Citizens Pledge to have a positive campaign and basically to get behind whoever is nominated.
Bravo. Yes.
And there's a candidate pledge, and there are 24 candidates now, 2 of whom I just found out about yesterday when I looked this up. And 17 of them have signed the pledge. And if they stick to it, it's pretty great because they're saying, I'll support the ultimate Democratic nominee, whoever it is, period. Immediately after there's a nominee, I'll endorse. So I'm thinking that night, and I will do everything in my power to make that nominee the next president of the United States and put myself at the disposal of the campaign. And Bernie Sanders was actually the first candidate who signed it. So that's not an endorsement of Bernie, but his followers were among the least willing last time, in my humble opinion, to get on board. But if he gets on board right away, hopefully we'll be good. And then, this is what I said, please let our action be the antidote to our despair. Okay, so, we've all agreed we have to take the presidency. And everything we do from this minute on works toward that goal. We really, I think, as tough will be taking the Senate. I'm laying this out for you, not, even though it's early, but if you want to give money, these are my opinions, unless you're going to go help in one of these states, which I don't suggest you do, because we need you here. But it's pretty obvious the most likely wins, what comes next, what are possibilities, but I do want to emphasize this. We'd have to hold every one of our seats and take 3 seats to get to halfway. That's assuming we have a vice president who's a Democrat, and that's going to be really hard. And holding the Doug Jones seat in Alabama is going to be incredibly hard. So if we lose a seat, we have to take even more seats. I do totally believe we can hold the House,
Yes.
and we will. And we did an amazing job. I'm certainly not endorsing Jill O'Brien, but she happened to be at this event where I caught all these lovely ladies. And we have Madeline Dean, Mary Gay Scanlon, Chrissy Houlihan, and Susan Wild. And you can see that they will be targeting Susan, but we're going to save her seat. say elections don't matter, I can't tell you how wrong they are, and you've got to fight against that, especially younger people. They do matter, and I don't even think that the Democrats have. Here's my theory: Donald Trump knows how to use propaganda. And so he repeats the same thing over and over and over again, even when, or maybe especially when it's a lie. And I feel like Democrats don't even know how, with all due respect, to repeat the same thing over and over again, even when it's the truth. And we have to let people know, we passed such and such, the Republican Senate is blocking it, we're on your side, get us Democrats in the Senate. We did this. Like, we have to repeat over and over again the things that the House has passed. And this is just one thing. The H.R. 1, was it H.R. 1?
Yes.
Was, amazing. And it didn't get Republican votes. What would be their reason for not letting us vote? I don't even know what they said. And then in contrast, their first bill in 2016 was to let people who were deemed incompetent get guns. So elections do make a huge difference. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but I'm giving you ammunition to tell people. Now, I have the pleasure to introduce Gay Scanlon, who ran an amazing campaign, was helpful to all the people who were running in offices in her county, who's done an amazing job, which you well know. I'm not going to take a long time on introductions because I want to get you out of here on time, but I'm so pleased and proud and happy to introduce Gay Scanlon.
Really appreciate it. I have to echo so many things that Nancy said, because we all know Nancy's always right.
Yes.
First of all, elections do matter. The president keeps saying, just look at the election. The problem is he's still thinking 2016. 2018 made a huge difference, and all the activity of folks like Nancy and folks like Indivisible coming out, organizing, getting people to the polls, registering people. We flipped the House. We're halfway there. It was amazing. It's made such a difference. Also, that organization helped Susan Wild and me get in early, and that has helped both of us get better committee assignments, get me on Judiciary. She's on Education and Labor. They changed the name. When it goes from Democrat or Republican to Democrat, it goes Education and Workforce to Education and Labor. Semantics matter too. So, that helped both of us get higher up and get better committee assignments. It has helped us, as Nancy mentioned, H.R. 1 was the good government bill. We've passed over 100 bills already that are sitting outside the Senate floor. And we do try to keep the focus on what those bills are. They're the Equality Act. They are bills to reduce prescription drug prices. They're bills to help our veterans. They are the first gun violence prevention bills in decades. I mean, we're doing the work that the American people say they want done. We just are having a little trouble getting it through the Senate. And of course, we're trying to hold the administration accountable, which is taking up a little bit of time. Judiciary has two. Well, we started the year with two 100-day agendas. There was one for legislation and there was one for oversight, and that's the way we're going to continue proceeding as we go forward. When we go back this past week was a district week, but when we go back on Monday, we're supposed to be dealing finally with the DACA bill. I see Emilio here. He and some other folks came down to see the markup hearing on DACA and TPS. I mean, that's one of the promises the Democrats made, and it's something we're going to deliver on again. So, we are able to walk and chew gum at the same time, and that's what we're trying to do every day. A lot, obviously, in the news about what are you going to do with Trump? What are you going to do with the Mueller report? And there's different viewpoints on how quickly to move towards actual impeachment or impeachment inquiries. But I think what everybody is unified on is the idea that we have to hold hearings to bring this to the American people's attention. I was talking to a couple of people when we came in. You know, we've got a third of the country is like yourselves, activated, engaged, focused on the fact that what the Mueller report said was really damning. We've got a third of the country that's probably Trumpers, and they really just listen to what he says and repeats, and it's absolutely right. He stays on message. In fact, that report does not say no obstruction, no collusion. It says there was significant obstruction. It says there was cooperation. And since that report was released, we've seen an awful lot of cover-up. So that's what we're saying is chapter 3 is the cover-up chapter. We need to focus people on that. And we're going to be doing that through hearings. It takes a while. We've issued some subpoenas. We will be issuing more. If people don't obey those subpoenas, we will be enforcing those subpoenas through the courts. If you have the courts and the legislature saying that this stuff has to be produced and the administration defies it, I think that's the point at which we start flipping some more Republicans. We have one. We have one and some retirees. But it doesn't happen instantly, and that's frustrating, and that's why, you know, we're doing what we can. I think I got quoted in the New York Times today as saying that if it takes, you know, enacting the Mueller report using interpretive dance, that's what we're going to do. But what's really, really important is the continued activism and engagement at home. It's the fact that we are going into the 2019 election here in Delaware County with the chance to, you know, have a Democratic majority, maybe even a complete sweep in our county council in Delaware County. At the DA's office, at the judicial, we've never had a Democratic judge in Delaware County. Mm-hmm. I mean, what that means in really basic terms is that if we get shenanigans at a polling place on election day, which we do, I mean, we see crazy things in Delaware County, people being turned away from their polling places when they're completely eligible to vote. There's no place to go with that because you have to go to court, and the judges have all been handpicked by the Republican Party. So just getting some judges on the court there is going to make a huge difference, as opposed to, you know, in addition to general administration of justice. So keeping the pipeline of candidates growing, working in the local offices, getting people the experience to move to the next stage. I am so grateful every day that I was on our school board down in Wallingford-Swarthmore, because it taught me so much about how government works and doesn't work, and how to get things done by building coalitions, even if it's with people that you don't necessarily agree with all the time. How to not read all the comments on Facebook, because that's really important too if you want to maintain your sanity. But I think it's just so important to have groups like this, organizing folks like Nancy, like many of us who get up every day just angry and channeling that anger into action. So thank you all for being here, and thank you for your support. It means so much, and thank you for your work.
So, this is going to be hard, and it's an unfair playing field, unequal playing field. The nature of the Senate itself is tricky. There are 5 states, I believe I have the statistic right, who have fewer people in their state than Montgomery County. So we have a little piece of Bob Casey, none of Toomey, and they have 2 senators, so, and their votes count the same. So it's the nature of the Senate, but we're already not equally represented. And then I told this story before. Someone was nice enough to take me to some place where David Axelrod was. And I went up to him at the end and I said, listen, not to be contentious, but what the heck happened between 208 and 216? And he said, Nancy, I don't know what to say. We just dropped the ball. And I felt like, well, that was quite a big ball to drop. Like, I don't know, you could have called me, I would have helped. I don't even get it, but...
Yeah.
And the Republicans can only win by fighting dirty. They don't have policy on their side. They're not doing what our citizens really want, even many who vote for them. And the demographics are not on their side. So you can be sure that whatever you saw previously will be doubled and tripled, and there'll be a lot of help, I really believe, from Russia with this. And then I just want you to see this. It might be tricky, but in terms of popular vote, when the Republicans in 2010 took 63 seats in the House, they only gained 6.8% of the popular vote. We actually got 8.5% of the popular vote, but we only gained 40 seats because of gerrymandering. Mm-hmm. So everything is rigged against us. To some extent, because we let the state governments go. So you live in a state with a House election in November. Trump's made it crystal clear that winning the states like Pennsylvania, he doesn't want the Democrats to take the states in 2019. He knows that's terrible for him. Virginia went big. They won back a lot of seats in their state House of Representatives. And he's sending people to Pennsylvania already to make sure that the Democrats don't win big in 2019. 2019 is crucial of and by itself. Delco needs good judges. Delco needs a good county council, but it will lay the foundation also for 2020. So I think we had 33 state houses that the Senate and the House of Representatives were controlled by Democrats in 2008. And I think in 2016 we had 13. That's close. We lost 1,000 seats statewide. And it was part of a very clear Republican strategy and plan. And then they took advantage of it and to push through everything that would set them up for now and for 2016. And 2020 is important because of this, well, for all the obvious reasons, and because of the census, and because of redrawing the districts. We have to take the majority in the PA House and Senate. And Jen can talk about this when she speaks, but Pennsylvania rates at 0% for fairness in its state legislature. And that's based on, or it might be minus, but basically the party in control, and I hope that when the Democrats take control, they will not keep the same laws in place, but they will try to improve the laws. I mean, I'm working hard to get Democrats in, but I would like them to not become corrupt and stay strong and progressive and to what they pledge.
Yeah.
I think Jack actually sent me this, but don't be complacent. This shows you the change from October 2018 to May 2019 in registration. So blue means where we gained the most, Democrats gained the most registrants, and the red and orange and purple, whatever they are. So you can see that numbers-wise, Republicans have actually gained a lot of voters. But this puts a huge burden on you because you can see Delco actually got, at the whole state, Delco County got the most Democratic registrants. Followed by Chester, then Bucks, and that's where the action's going to be. That's where we have to work. Okay, so I'm trying really hard to work with grassroots groups to get them to focus on one thing: elections. They can work on everything I believe in: a woman's right to choose, sensible gun laws, the environment, but none of it will come to pass if we do not get Democrats into power. So the rallies, I guess they're somewhat good if you would need inspiration and community feeling, and if you get a lot of publicity. But otherwise, to me, you're better off canvassing and knocking on doors. You have to get people to vote, to understand issues, and meet them one-to-one. Okay, so Montco, I learned, let me say, for those of you who don't know me, in February 2017, I knew nothing about politics. I'm not sure I knew who Mary Jo Daley was. I don't know if I knew Montco, Delco. I knew nothing, less than nothing. And I just feel everything's new to me, a big surprise. But apparently Montco was very Republican, and we flipped it, and we're on the path to flip other counties. And I had no idea we had commissioners, let alone what they did. But I've been lucky to learn about that, and I've been so impressed. And I don't want to take up time with introductions, so Val will come up and
Good afternoon, everybody. Wow, it's great to see so many people here. A bunch of you came in since I sat down. Thank you, Nancy, and thank you to all of you for spending part of your day with all of us. We could not be more passionate about this work. So Nancy asked me to do a lot of things in a very short time, so I'm going to talk really quickly because, you know, she's going to keep me on time. But I just want to put in perspective a little bit about what Nancy alluded to in terms of Montgomery County. So the first time, so Montgomery County has 3 commissioners. It's a little bit different than Delco. It is required bipartisan representation, and for the first, well, the entire history of the county, until the 2011 election, there were 2 Republicans and 1 Democrat. And then Josh Shapiro and Leslie Richards, with the help of many of you in this room, won the 2011 election and took office in 2012. Ken Lawrence, who's now my governing partner, who replaced Josh, and I were both on the transition team, and we both led committees. So we've subcommittees. So we've been at this for a while now. And I will tell you that the county was truly a mess. And so these elections are important because it comes down to, as simply as I can put it, the priorities of the people that are governing and the values of the people that are governing. So let me give you just a couple of quick examples. One is fiscal responsibility. We hear the other side speak about fiscal responsibility all the time. When we all came in 2012, the county had a $10 million budget deficit. The rainy day fund, or the fund balance, was so depleted that Josh and Leslie had to borrow money to make the first payroll. The Moody's bond rating agency came in several times over the next year, year and a half, 2 years, and downgraded the county until it was almost at junk status. So we have turned that around, and we now have our AAA bond rating back.
Yay.
We got it back, and it's been reaffirmed now a year later. So Democrats can govern with fiscal responsibility. Our rainy day fund is where it is supposed to be by best practices. And we also inherited a situation where there have been no payments made into the pension fund for 6 years. So we have made a payment every single year since 2012. Our infrastructure. You hear the other side talk about infrastructure and commerce like it is the holy grail, except they do literally nothing about it. In 2012, Montgomery County had 62 structurally deficient bridges. 62 of the bridges that we own, out of the 132 that we own, 62 were structurally deficient. Just sitting there with weight restrictions or closed. You know what that kind of impact that has on commerce? An extremely negative one. If trucks can't get in to deliver goods or pick up goods, if school buses and fire trucks and ambulances can't take the quickest route, people don't want to work here and people don't want to live here. So we have set out methodically to fix all of those things, and we are well on our way. Now, priorities and values really translates into a lot of the day-to-day things that happen in our lives as well. And we have completely reimagined our health and human services. Back in 2012, if you needed a service, you had to go from place to place to place in the county. We now have a one-stop shop called Community Connections, where anybody can come in, they can get help with any issues they have, and they can walk out knowing exactly what to do for which particular issue, and we can help them get that done. So that's just one example how we have a very constituent-focused approach to how we govern. Rather than making it as difficult as possible for people to get services, we do everything we can to make it as easy as possible. And from that, we've seen very tangible results. Our homelessness population has been reduced by 47% in the last 5 years. Our lives lost to the opioid overdose epidemic from 2017 to 2018, we are down 35, which is, there's still too many, but we are moving in the right direction. And we've really improved veteran services and a number of other things. And now we're moving into criminal justice reform and some other extremely important issues that will affect our community at large. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, it's just another set of tax and spend Democrats, which is something that we get accused of every single day. Have we raised taxes? Yes. We've had 2 small tax increases since 2012, totaling for the average person in Montco about $110 between the 2 of them total a year, $110 a year. However, what's most important to know is that Montgomery County's property taxes are the lowest of any of the collar counties around Philadelphia. So we've been able to do all this work, and we still have the lowest county property taxes. So do not let them just throw out that old, worn-out trope of tax and spend. That just is a lie. Now, let me talk very quickly about why this is so important. There are many regional issues that we need to work on together, and this is why we need to flip these other counties. We face very serious threats to transportation funding for our entire region. Public transportation, PennDOT, and the Turnpike Commission are all up against some extremely serious problems. And it is going to take all 5 counties working together with the same priorities and the same values to solve that problem. We have significant environmental issues, and if you think, a river in Montco doesn't flow into Delco, these things, we have to work on these things together. The air we breathe matters for all of us, and so does education. We all are going to be facing workforce shortages over the next decade, and we need to work together to make sure that our education is robust, our colleges, our community colleges, our trade schools are firing on all cylinders, to keep this part of our state the economic engine that it's been traditionally. And these are things that we can work on together. And when we do these things as county governments, people do stand up and take notice. I'm going to give you 2 quick examples. Montgomery County instituted paid parental leave for our county employees on February 1st. So a parent of any gender is eligible for 6 weeks of paid parental leave. Now, we did that just for our county employees. That's all that we have the power to do, but we do have 2,700 of them. And the phone starts ringing. And I was actually let me go back. The phone starts ringing with people from other counties. And a few days later, I was in a meeting with a commissioner from Bucks County. And she's getting all these text messages. And she leans over and she says, "What did you guys do in Montgomery County? I'm getting all these text messages and emails from our employees wanting to know why we can't do this thing." So my point is, when one of us steps up and shows that you can do something, others do follow. And that's incredibly important. Montgomery County also, as of a week ago, is purchasing all of its electricity for our county buildings from a wind-generated source. Another example of how if we start stepping up and doing these things, imagine if all 5 counties in the Southeast start buying their electricity from a wind-generated source. This is how we change not just our region, but our Commonwealth. So it's so important that the folks that you are working to elect share our priorities and values, and I know them, and I know that they do, and once they're in charge, things will change rapidly. So Montco is here to help. We did not have the entire countywide offices until the 2015 election. Wow, that's long. It takes a while. It takes a while. And there are a couple that are by statute in the other party. But just to let you know, we did not get the full slate across until 15. So for us, I know everyone thinks, oh, Montco, we don't have to do anything. Not true. This is our first election for our whole slate to hopefully be reelected for countywide office. So we hope that you'll spare a little bit of time for us. And one of those places where it's most apparent is our Court of Common Pleas. So Delco has no Democrat judges. We elected our first, anybody know when? Not all the inside baseball people. 2009. Lois Murphy was the first Democrat to gain election to the Montgomery County Court of Common Pleas. So she is our first judge to run for retention as a Democrat. Ever in Montgomery County. So we have 3 amazing candidates that are running this year. Virgil Walker, you're going to hear from in a moment. When all 3 of these Democrats win election, we will be at 50% of the judges. Judges hold office for 10 years. And by the way, I want to say that I don't mean this in any way to impugn our judges. They've actually worked very nicely with us, the sitting judges, very collaboratively. But again, it comes down to sort of that overarching sense of priorities and values. And I know that our 3 candidates that are running this year are going to do a great job. So with that, I want to introduce Virgil Walker. He was an assistant U.S. attorney in the Eastern District of Pennsylvania for 27 years, and he's also an amazing musician. So with that, I will turn over to Virgil. Thank
you. Good afternoon, guys. I'm Virgil Walker. I'm a candidate for Court of Common Pleas in Montgomery County. Let me tell you a little bit about me. I was born in Virginia Beach. Unfortunately, just down the street from where that mass murder took place. I literally lived about 3 miles from that place. That's where I grew up. I grew up in very humble beginnings. My grandfather, one was a janitor, and the other was a farmer. And you know what? I learned so many valuable lessons from them. First of all, hard work. There's no substitute for hard work. They never made excuses. They did everything, the right way. And but one thing I learned from them, that once I became an assistant United States attorney, by the way, I worked for both Obama administration, Clinton, and both Bush. And so I met those people. And one thing I've learned, regardless of whether you're president of the United States or a farmer, you're a human being. You're just entitled to your rights as a human being. So, but you know what? Just because you're president, as we really know now, doesn't make you better than anyone else. Okay? And I think that's important to know. If you want someone to sit on the bench, you want someone who's not going to be impressed just because someone comes up before you and their name happened to be from some prominent family. Has 2 nickels running. Because I've lived, not lived, because of course I'm not a millionaire, but I've lived and met people in all walks of life, and you'll see someone in me who would be fair and impartial. So let me just tell you a couple of things, a few other things about me. Thank you. I won in the primary.
Yay.
Henry Hillis and Melissa Schwartz, the 3 of us are Democrats. Let me tell you what separates us from our Republican competition. We went through a very tough screening process before the Montgomery County Bar. We had to fill out about 25 pages of information about us, judges we appeared before, briefs we had filed, arguments we had made, you name it. We had to submit it, and we had to sign waivers so that the Bar Association could contact the Supreme Court and see whether or not we had any kind of violations as practicing attorneys. We also had to sign waivers so they could look into our health records. Then we had to go into a room, and this is really the fun part. There were 25 lawyers lined up. There was a table with a glass of water and a chair. And you had to sit there, and you had no idea what the questions they would ask you. So they just started firing questions like this. And we were in there for like 45 minutes. Seemed like 45 hours, but it was only 45 minutes. And fortunately, of the remaining candidates, I received the highest recommendation that the bar could give of highly recommended. Thank you. Thank you. And my running mates, they were recommended. The Republicans did not go before the process at all. They did not fill out the paperwork. They did not go to the interview. They did nothing. Nothing. And so you would have thought that would have ended it. Unfortunately, the bar gave them another bite of the apple. And guess what? They didn't do it. They gave them another opportunity. Submit your paperwork, come before this committee, and they didn't do it. So they received, not surprisingly, not recommended by the Bar Association. So I just want to let you know, the Democrats, once again, we're doing it the right way. And Republicans, following from the top down, not doing it the right way, completely circumventing the law. So I think they're taking their lead from 45. Thank you for your support. Thanks for coming out on a beautiful Sunday afternoon to hear us, talk about our candidacy. Thank you.
So one thing Val mentioned to me is that she had a plan to get out the vote in Montgomery County so that even if Pennsylvania voted the way it did before in 2020, the increase in what we get out will overcome. In other words, Trump won by about, I think it was 44,000 votes. Val said if we could get out 44,000 more votes right here in Montco. It was impressive to me, and we can certainly do it with 5 counties. And this just shows you that just between Lower Merion and Narberth, we voted between 2014 and 2018 with 11,000 more voters. So for 2020, I really think we can do it. So the state government, I had no idea how important, forget 2020, forget Trump, state government is so important, local government is so important. It sets so many laws, it can counteract missteps by the federal government. Your vote is essential. Learning about the candidates and making sure your values are represented is so important. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to follow my, okay, I get what I'm doing. Excuse me. Okay, so I want to talk about our state government. In 2016, in the Senate, there are 50 state senators. We only had 16 Democrats and 34 Republicans. That was horrible, just horrible. And we gained more Senate seats than I actually thought we would. It was amazing. And we gained 5 seats. So then we went to 21-29, and we had a veto-proof majority. So then there was a special election recently in Allegheny County, and we got another seat. So now we only need to gain 3 Senate seats in a state. We went from having 16 to now only needing 3 because we have a Democratic governor and lieutenant governor, so if we're equal, they can break the tie. So 3 seats. What does that mean? This will be in 2020, but I'm just giving you the layout. Whoops. The seat that's near us is Senate District 9, where Tom Killian, Tom, correct? Yeah. Is the current state senator. And you can see he only won with 51.36 of the vote. So that's really flippable, and that's where we have to be. Like, all of you need to help in that district. It's not that far away. I'll let you know what you can do there. I'm just kind of informing you right now.
Yeah, we had to see where it was. It was West Town, I could see where.
2016.
What?
When did he run legs?
Yeah, that was 2016.
Oh,
And it's a 4-year term. Right.
Right, okay. Now the House. Yay, that's on Inauguration Day. I took that picture, Jennifer O'Mara. You can't see it, behind her I think is Christine Sappi, but it was just so exciting that day. So again, in 2016, where there were only 82 Democrats, there's 203 seats, correct?
Yes.
So we only had 82. 2018, we won 14 seats, but we lost 3. So there was a net gain of 11 seats. So we went from 82 to 93. So now we only have to flip 9 seats. Now I say only with quotes around it, but we only have to flip 9 seats, and we really can do it. And I do just want to say, I've looked at the statistics. If Jen won, we can flip districts. That might have come out wrong. I mean, her district was so Republican. 22,000 Republicans, 14,000 Democrats, 5,000 independents. She had to get every Democrat out to vote, and she had to persuade independents and Republicans to vote for her, and she flipped the hardest district that flipped. And I do want to let me introduce Jen right now. Jennifer O'Mara will tell us about the choice.
Thank you very much, Nancy. And I have to thank everyone here in Indivisible, Narberth, and beyond, and especially Nancy Kleinberg, because without you, we do not flip the 165th, because we won by a landslide of 530 votes. So all those doors knocked really did make a difference. So I'm here to tell you a little bit about the reality of Harrisburg, and it is pretty bleak, so I pre-apologize for making you a little bit more depressed on this Sunday afternoon. But then I have some positives that have been a result of our election and things we can do to make sure it's even better in 2020. So in 2019, January 1st, Nancy says we're sworn in. What we also do that day is adopt the House rules. Prior to this process, we are still working with no rules. So we are given, the freshmen kept asking all through December, like, when are we going to see the rules? Because they change every year and they make changes throughout the year. These are negotiations that basically the leaders sort of decide what changes will be accepted. And what the Republicans do to scare us is they represent or present the very worst rule possible changes, so then we have to freak out and get the very worst ones out, and then we're settled with a document that still sucks, but it's not as bad as it could have been. And this is something they've been doing every single year. So we are finally get a copy of the rules the day before, and we're told that we most likely will have to vote on them without being given the opportunity to make amendments. So we're like, how's that possible? In the House, you're always supposed to be allowed to make amendments on rules. And we realized because the first thing they made us do was adopt Resolution 4. So we didn't get to see 1, 2, or 3. We saw 4, and 4 said we weren't going to change 1, 2, or 3. And that is literally what we voted. The first vote I took was a no against Resolution 4, which was making it so we couldn't change the rules. We were just going to approve this document that we did not see. And this is how Harrisburg works, unfortunately. The majority party runs everything. They are the chairs. They are in charge of all the committees. They decide what bills get put on their committee agenda. That determines what can move through the House floor. They set the agenda for hearings. They determine who will be able to present during those hearings. And just last week, I was in a hearing on a committee that I sit in, and the first rep that was able to ask was not a member of that committee, but a Republican who was given a dog and pony show presentation. So this stuff does not get any better as the session goes on. And just Darryl Metcalf, one of our favorite people, you all know Darryl Metcalf, he's now the chair of the Environmental Committee. And a couple weeks ago, he had a climate denier testifying in front of the Environmental Committee. So this is just the reality of what we're facing. We killed general assistance a few weeks ago, not something I'm proud of, but something the House was determined to do. And many of you may have seen, it was one of the first times I actually spoke on the House floor, was defending an amendment that would have preserved general assistance for disabled veterans. So, to give you an example that it's not just the Democrats or the Republicans that are bad, it's these too. I was told when I got back to Harrisburg the next week that I had to apologize to the Republican chair of the Veterans Committee because I hurt his feelings. And this was by the Democrats. They made me apologize. And I was told that I was, not this was by the R's, but that I was arrogant or naive to think I could speak on the House floor as a freshman. So this is just what the freshmen are dealing with. They don't think that we are the same duly elected officials as they do, I suppose. But we, all of the wonderful freshmen that you helped elect, don't really care. And we're entering Harrisburg with our own mission. And we have a... And we have a group chat, and while we were sitting here, I sent them the 0% fairness thing, because I just thought that was so hilarious. But we are making really big changes in Harrisburg. So I talk about something bad that happened on the first day. Something good also happened. On the first day, we elect leaders. That actually was in November, right after the election. My mind is a little blurred, you can imagine. But so this is a week after the election. We get up there, we're electing our leaders between the Southeast and Philadelphia. The freshmen forced the two delegations, which historically have always met separately, to meet together, making us the largest Democratic voting bloc in the caucus. And so instead of having 2 of 7 leaders from the Southeast, we now have 5 out of 7 leaders from the Southeast. So that's one huge improvement. No, I know, I just have notes because I don't want to forget things. The atmosphere has changed, frankly. I've heard this from other legislators, from staff, from lobbyists, that the freshmen are following our own set of rules. We take what meetings we want to take. We talk to lobbyists the way we want. We meet together on our own. We have established caucuses together. We're working on our own initiatives. We don't always listen when the leaders tell us what to do. And it's a good thing because we will be the leaders one day. And that's the attitude that we need because Harrisburg needs to change. The other thing that we have been able to do is make a big impact with bills that we voted on. So 2 bills I want to talk about in particular. HB 827, which would have brought fracking to the Delaware River in northern parts of the state. One I heard a lot about from my constituents, which always makes me happy. We were able to get enough votes, both between us and some of the Republicans, to be frank, that they pulled the bill from the calendar and didn't vote on it. And we knew something good was happening because Brian Cutler was on our side of the floor, and whenever that happens, it means they don't have the votes. And that's a great thing. It's still out there, but it's dead for now. We also were able to kill a really terrible fiscal bill, to Val's point. They talk about fiscal conservatism all the time, but then they were going to create this new bureaucracy called the Office of the Repealer. I kid you not. We were able to kill that bill. But talk about the rules. Yeah, I know, the irony, right? The next day, they resurfaced it because that is something you can do. So now it's out there, and I keep calling it the zombie repealer. We're waiting until Terzai calls it to the floor. Another bill you all have probably heard about, the same week Alabama passed their anti-choice bills, we passed one in Pennsylvania, sadly. A ban on abortion, bringing in the hint of Down syndrome. And Republicans tried to use Down syndrome as a way to say this was a bill about disabilities, but we knew this was a bill about, frankly, taking away rights from women. And we spoke out for hours. We had a very long debate. Most of the freshman women got up to talk. I'm saving mine because there's a worse abortion bill coming. But what was really exciting is we had 19 more no votes this session than we did when this bill ran last session. And my seat, which you all helped to flip, was a yes vote last time. So we are directly making a difference in Harrisburg. And the other good news is with 19 more no votes, we have now protected Governor Wolf's veto. So this bill has gone off to the Senate, but the Senate has made no indication of wanting to run it because the governor has promised he will veto this bill. And your activism and energy isn't just noticed by people like me who need you to keep me going, but Republican members have complained to me about activists. They hate Gun Rights Day or Gun Safety Day because we're going to be up there. They can't stand when Planned Parenthood's there because women are going to flood their office. So your pressure is making a difference, and it's forcing people in districts that are moderate to vote Democrat. Not all the time, but every once in a while. And frankly, their caucus is scary. One of the women have told me that she's had to have her seat moved because she's being bullied by members when she votes with us, and that they've had to have meetings with the leadership about it because it's not stopping. So something else that we don't know about happens in their caucus meetings, but once we get 102, that is not gonna matter anymore. All right, so what do we need to do? We need to flip more seats. Leanne isn't here to talk about that, but we need 9 more to go. And the reason I mention Leanne is she is now the chair of the HCCC, which means, yes, very good for us. Another Southeast position in leadership. But Leanne is going to be focused on finding and recruiting really good candidates and raising the resources we need to flip those seats. One of those candidates is right over here, Deb Siamaka, who's going to run in the 168th district. Her district, future district, will be right next door to mine. We share a couple communities, and she will be replacing a Republican who voted yes on the Down syndrome bill. Whenever he votes bad, I text Deb just to keep her motivated. Go knock doors, Deb. And then the other thing we need to do is protect seats, because all this work doesn't matter if we lose our seats in 2020. Right. And we just put Tom Killian up as an example. I am their Tom Killian. I won by 1.2%, I think. Looking at Ben, but he's not paying attention. 1.2, is that right? Did we win by 1.2%? So that's even less than Tom Killian. So when they're going after their #1 target, it's districts like mine. It's districts like Steve Malagari and Wendy Oman and Dave Deloso. And so when Nancy and I ask you for money again, because we're going to, don't be upset with us. We need to. It's really important. Because we're still up against a machine, frankly. So thank you all so much for what you're doing. And know that when you support candidates like me, you are also supporting Mary Gay Scanlon and Bob Casey, though he won't be on the ballot this time, and the president, because our door knocking is going to be getting voters out to vote for the people up the ballot as well. And so get out, knock doors, be a beast like John Berger, who knocked so many doors he would bleed and still knock doors. That's the kind of dedication that you need, and that's going to give you something that it'll help you sleep at night, literally and figuratively. So thank you all so much for your time, and thank you for being here for what you do.
Thank you. I want to go back for 1 second because I missed slides, but I just want to say that there was a special election in Lackawanna County, and to hold our seat, it's a seat that we thought we'd win, but we weren't sure. We had to hold it, so we would only have to flip 9 seats. And I do just want to say, I don't know if you recognize people, but here's Adrian and Ed and Nancy Bleeden and Eva Ray and
Tina Stein.
Tina Stein and Bob Paul, and that's Sarah Johnson Rothman. Anyway, people went from down here, traveled, you know, whatever, what is it, 2 hours or something, and we took that seat by a greater percentage than we thought we would. It's amazing, and then this is just a graphic to let you see what happened between 2016 and 2018 down here in southeastern Pennsylvania. We really blew it out, and that's what we have to do. You saw Jen. Okay, so we have to flip 9 seats, and I don't have a crystal ball, and a lot of experts are looking into this, but I feel we have a really good chance of winning 7 seats down here only with your continued support and enthusiasm. It can only happen with your help. And to echo what Jen said, the first thing we have to concentrate on now is protection. Again, I've asked a lot of people, got a lot of input, put my 2 cents in, and this is what I think are our most endangered candidates. Jen, Wendy Ullman and Box, Steve Malagari, you can read.
You can read.
Now, what are ways you can protect them? Look at the bottom one. See the green? Money now, which I'm going to talk about. But I think that Doug Lentz and Ruth Dove went to Jen's office and just said, I'm here to volunteer, and have been coming in once a week. Some group that I talked to, one woman told me she called Mike Zabel's office and said, what can I do? They said someone was going on vacation. She could come in and work for 2 weeks. She went in. We're going to be doing legislative door knocking. This is our top priority, because if we lose any seats, we have to flip more seats. Now, I just want to give you a quick, oh, maybe this is off. Yes.
I just want to, is that better? Better? Yes. Okay, I want to just give you a quick overview. The seats in blue are the seats that I believe we're most likely to flip. And I don't expect you to memorize these. I just want you to know that when you're asked to canvass or help, there's a purpose and research has been done. And I want to tell you how this is going to go into 2019. But I just want to give you the general layout. So these are the Montgomery County seats. Protect Steve Malagari, and then flip 2 or 3 seats in Montco. Oh, Chester. So I do want to say that Dick Bingham and Marsha Platt. Yeah, I want us to just stand up for a second. I'm very happy. Yeah, the chair and vice chair of Chester County Dems. I'm very happy they're here. This is focused more on Montco and Delco because we can't do everything, but we are going to get to Chester, and I am really working to energize groups like Indivisible Chester, etc., to help in Chester. But Chester's doing an amazing job. You read it. I think Delco has the best chance of flipping, but Chester's right up there. It's not that far behind, and there is a lot to do in Chester. They've been, they elected Chrissy Houlihan. I think they got the first 4, is that right, row officers since 1799 or something. So, I mean, they're on the cusp. Not beautiful Chester County. So in Chester County, Danielle Friel-Otten won by more percentage than some people, but I heard that she may be primaried and that she really does need protection. And there's a seat that's 32% Chester, but mostly Delco, that I'm going to talk about later. And then there is by the way, when I say Pam Hacker, they're the names of the people who ran in 2016. they may or may not be the candidates in 2020. Philly is Democratic, but this one seat is not. Mike Doyle ran, and he didn't do great, but there's word that the popular Republican there may not run again. She may run for something else. And if she steps down and we have a really good candidate, that is probably a winnable seat. Now, Bucks is way farther behind than Delco and Chester, but it is working really hard. And I said it, it's our biggest challenge and our biggest opportunity. It's also the hardest place for me to get people to go and canvass and work because it's farther. But we are going to really try to support them. And Wendy Ullman, it really needs protection. So I'm telling you this because if there are fundraisers or you ever want to know where to give money, just let me know and I'll tell you. Now, getting to Delco. It is the most flippable district. I think it's going to flip in 2019. And I want to say, Oven by itself, that'll be amazing for the people in Delco and for our democracy. But why we all have a stake in it and why we have to get out of our little boxes for the good of the nation is because flipping Delco in 2019 will also help us in 2020. For one thing, first of all, I mean, Delco people will talk to you, but they're going to cry if they lose, and that's not the purpose of, I don't want to make grown people cry, but it's going to end patronage. It's going to end so many things. It's going to shake up the world. It's also going to free up money to give to the Democrats, because there are people who give money to the Republicans, not because they're into the cause that much, but because they think they're going to get something out of it. So it's really important for us to flip Delco. Okay, so Deb, stand up one more time. So, we try not to get in the primaries, but so far no one has declared for Deb's seat. I think she's be a perfect fit. Kristen Seal's now helping Tim in the Senate, correct? So she's not going to run again. Deb is up and running. There's going to be a fundraiser for her. I think she's a perfect fit, and I will have her here to talk, but not today. Thank you, Deb. The seat that's partly Chester, partly Delco is a very flippable seat also, but there will be a primary, I believe, between the person who ran last time and Kathy Spar. Okay, so I've told you how important Delco is, and now I'm going to have Colleen Guiney, who's the fairly newly elected chairman of the Delco Dems, come up and tell you about Delco.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, everyone who's here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I have a lot to tell you in 6 or 7 minutes, so I'm not going to get it all done, but I'm going to hopefully get you. Okay, and a little slower probably. I have a lot to say, and I may not get done, but I'll do the best I can. First question I have for you: how many of you have canvassed or otherwise volunteered for Delaware County candidate to date? Okay, so that means most of you know a lot of what has happened to get us to this point. And all I can say to begin is thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You are making amazing change, and it's fantastic. So I'm going to start. Okay, is that better?
Yeah, just keep it in front of your mouth.
I'm just going to start with November then, since a lot of people here know what happened to get us to last November. I'm going to just do a fast forward. So about 3 days after our last very successful election when Jen and all her colleagues and Mary Gay were elected, we then immediately had people say, we have an election next year, we've got to get started. So literally within days, we began to amass 20 candidates who wanted to run for the 8 spots that are now up in 2019. We had extensive questionnaires, we had multiple county-wide events where all of our candidates went and talked to and listened to our committee people and explain to them what they wanted to do. We had a convention in February with 876 electors who came and very convincingly gave us a full slate of endorsed candidates, 3 for county council, 1 for district attorney, who you'll hear from in a few minutes, and 4 for judge. And I'm pleased to say that from February until now, we've worked very hard to get our contested, cross-filed Republicans out of the picture, and all of our endorsed candidates made it through in the primary. So now we're taking a deep breath and saying, hooray. The thing that I love about this process is it's a bottom-up process. The folks that were chosen in Delaware County were chosen by 876 people who had spent hours and hours talking, listening, talking with their peers, and it is a very exciting process. In addition to that, you see here in this row, Springfield forward, just stand up and turn around and wave. We have... not just in Springfield, but in many other Republican strongholds, we have candidates stepping forward on the municipal level, from Upper Chichester in the far west to Upper Darby in the far east, up and down. Little Eddystone with 2 precincts has never had Democrats run. They did a sneak, quiet tax collector write-in, so there's actually an unopposed Democrat for a tax collector in this town. It's never had an elected Democrat. So we have energy all over the place, and much of that has to do with the hope that you have given to the folks of Delaware County. Now I've missed all my notes. Cut me off when I'm done. So we have work to do between now and November. Okay, our turnout, without pushing, without any attempt to increase voter turnout, all we did was education this cycle. All our mail went to Super Dems. We went up 30% in our voters, but still we only had 17% of Democrats voting this cycle. So we need to know that Democrats in Delaware County, just like anywhere else, aren't going to just go pull a lever without knowing who they're voting for. So we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of doors to knock. We have a lot of postcards to write, a lot of calls to make. And I know you guys have done that. And those that haven't done it, hopefully you will help us again. Because once we flip Delaware County, then we can help Chester County and we can move on. And the other thing that we've done in Delaware County that's so exciting is communities are helping each other. We had about 200 people, not just from within Delaware County going from place to place. We had you guys coming down in to flip up, help flip Upper Darby and some really big municipalities where all this matters. So we are collaborators, and that's what we want to keep on doing. And my new chairs in communities that have never had experienced leadership now have the experienced chairs coming and helping them and sitting down with coffee and just sharing the knowledge. So it's awesome. It's wonderful to be part of this process. So there's so much to say. I want to also let you know that now at this point we are fortunate enough to have a new campaign manager that's going to bring all 8 of these candidates hopefully through. And I'm going to introduce Trevor Maloney, who's in the back right there. So Trevor for joining us to build, to work, to grow. And what we're going to do is, at the end of the meeting, when there's tables over here, there are 6 clipboards available. If any of you are not hooked in with the Delaware County effort and would like to do that, he can take your information down, and we will be in touch with you moving forward. We'll be knocking, we'll be listening, we'll be talking. So basically, moving forward, the Republicans are now feeling under threat. They're pretending to be us. Their candidates put forward a transparency plan, which was the opposite of the way they've been running government, for those of you who know and are laughing. And at the same time, literally in the same week, our electeds put an ethics package trying to get that to be pushed through for just hearings. We wanted to have ethics hearings at the county level, and the elected Republicans called it a dirty trick. So we have centuries of corruption to fight against. And I can't get into the depth of it, but it's very similar to what you guys have overcome here in Montgomery County. Our candidates are in it for the right reason. They're wonderful people. They appreciate and are so grateful for your support. And if you want to talk to me more, I've got pages of notes. But I'm just so grateful for your help. And know that you bring hope to the people who need it. You bring hope to those folks that don't have time to knock on doors because they've got 3 jobs, 4 kids, 2 buses to take to go vote. And if we can just get those folks to vote, they're gonna have a better life. So you are making life better already in Delaware County. You've made a difference, and you're gonna keep on doing it the more you can help wherever it is that you go. So all I can say again is thank you, thank you, thank you. You are making a difference every day. And that's it, I'll stop.
Thank you. And I would like to introduce Jack Stolzheimer. I met him when I was helping Jen. I didn't know he was going to run for DA, but I'm thrilled that I got to know him, and he's running for all the right reasons, and here he is.
Thank you very much. Just a little bit of background about me, if you don't mind, and I'll tell you why I'm running, and also maybe a little bit about some sort of discussion about politics that we've been talking about a lot today. But first of all, like my friend Virgil Walker, I'm a former federal prosecutor, and like him, I come from very humble beginnings. My mother came to this country as a refugee when she was 15 years old from a Nazi slave labor camp. Her family and she had spent 6 years of their lives after the war walking around Europe trying to get to the United States because even though they were poor and they were tired and they were hungry, they yearned to be free. And they were able to get their freedom for the first time when they arrived in the city of Chester in 1951. Very proud to have lived the American dream in Delaware County. My father grew up in a town called Upper Darby, which is the largest municipality in Delaware County. He dropped out of high school when he was 17 years old to join the Army during the Korean War, and was able to finally raise our family into the middle class by getting a union job. He drove a SEPTA bus for the rest of his life. Actually died at work driving his bus and serving the people. So because of the background I come from, I was inspired to a lifetime of public service and also as a lifelong Democrat, because during my lifetime, the Democratic Party has been the means most people who are working class, come up through the hard work of their families, have found a way into the middle class. And so I've always spent most of my adult life working in public service. I started, even before Jen O'Mara was born, working for the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. I worked for a couple of Democrats who were the Speakers of the House back in the late 80s, early 90s, Jim Mandarino and Bob O'Donnell, back when the Democrats used to control the legislature because we had those areas that are turning red in Western. And the world has really changed, and I'll talk about that in a moment. I also spent the last 2 years of my career working for State Treasurer Joe Torcella. I was his deputy when we passed a lot of great reforms in the last 2 years. We created an ABLE program to give every child with a disability the chance to live a full life. And we also created a new program called Keystone Scholars. Every child born in Pennsylvania or adopted in Pennsylvania from this point forward is going to get the gift of higher education. We're going to give them a starter 529 account, and we're going to tell them the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania believes in their future if they will too. We think it's important to give every child the same opportunity that I've had, that Joe has had, and everybody in this room has had to live the American dream. So I've also spent 7 years of my public service career as a prosecutor. I started in the Delaware County DA's office for a couple years and then became a federal prosecutor where I specialized in going after drug dealers and violent criminals in the North Central Philadelphia. From that experience, I learned everything that there is to see wrong with our criminal justice system, which is partly why I'm running for district attorney now, because I believe that we can do a lot better than the job we've been doing, not just in Delaware County where we're particularly bad, but we can do a lot better job of having a criminal justice system that is fair and decent to everybody in our society. Delaware County is really behind the times. We have the only private prison in Pennsylvania. Our county jail is a privately run facility. The profits go to a corporation based outside of Pennsylvania. Not surprisingly, since it went private, we've always been above the state and national level in the rate of incarceration. And 1/3 of the people in that facility every day, on a day-in, day-out basis, are there simply because they're too poor to make their bail.
Yeah.
So we're ruining their families, we're hurting taxpayers, we're driving up the profits of the GO group. That's wrong, and that's part of the corruption here in Delaware County that we're all aiming to change. Elaine, Nasrat, our whole team are working together to change. My opponent is a prosecutor who is appointed by the Republican machine to look out for their interests and to make sure that nobody uses the power of the grand jury to investigate all the corruption going in that courthouse. That's why the other reason why we need to change who the DA is in November of this year. So I'm running for district attorney with this great team of people. I was the leading vote getter in the primary, in part because I was unopposed and not a multi-candidate race. But it also shows, I think, to what Colleen was saying. I was the highest vote getter on either side because the Democrats outperformed the Republicans for the first time ever in a Delaware County off-year election. Now, it was only by 186 votes, so it's a little too close. I have a lot of gray hair already, so if we can help me get that number up by November, I would really appreciate the help of everybody in this room. So we're going to change Delaware County. We're going to end the corruption of the courthouse. We're going to fix our criminal justice system. We're going to give everybody fair and just treatment. But I also want to tell you just a little bit. I've been involved in statewide Democratic politics for over 30 years. I'm kind of like Al Pacino in Godfather 3. Every time I try to get out, they suck me back in. And the whole world has changed in that 30-year period, which is why it's so important that you're all doing what you're doing to help us in Delco. The line between red and blue Pennsylvania Valley used to be City Line Avenue. This whole area, when I was growing up, just like Delaware County, was all Republican. 2-to-1, 3-to-1 Republican registration margins. All the legislators in Harrisburg were Republican. We've changed that, but we've lost working class Pennsylvania. Rural working class Pennsylvania has gone the other way. And ladies and gentlemen, we're maybe not going to be able to get those people back in this 2020 election. But Pennsylvania is absolutely critical. The presidential race is going to be determined in most part by what happens in Pennsylvania. So if we can't turn Elk County around, we have to get more votes out of Delaware County, and we have to get more votes out of Montgomery County. And ladies and gentlemen, we can do that if we end this corrupt political machine. There are tons of people, and Elaine will tell you, who are still registered Republicans in Delaware County, but they've been voting Democrat for president since 1992, some of them. But there's others who haven't been because they're afraid of the machine. If we take away that fear, we will get them back on the right side of history. So Mary Gay Scanlon and the leadership that we have in Delaware County, Tim Kearney, Jen O'Mara, they're great people, and they've given us a pathway to victory. We just all have to step up and take it, led by our local candidates. And ladies and gentlemen, let me just say, the only way from my years in Harrisburg we're ever going to get back to a Democratic legislature supporting a Democratic governor is if we take every single seat in Delaware County. We have that flippable state Senate seat, and we have 3 state house seats with some incredible candidates who are already lined up to run. Give us the help this November, and you will see it paid back next year when we're in the majority in Harrisburg. Thank you so much.
And now I have the privilege of introducing Elaine Schaefer, who is one of 3 incredible candidates who are running for Delco County Council. They have a little bit of a different setup from Montco, but I'm going to let Elaine explain it to you.
Thank you, Nancy. And before I start, I want to say thank you to this group. I want you to know that you are legend in the amount of work you put into that last election cycle. And thank you for giving us Jen O'Mara. We know that you are responsible for that. Thank you. So I am one of 3 endorsed candidates for county council. It is 3 women, but not just 3 women, 3 smart, hardworking, experienced, incredible women. And we are ready to make history and take over this county.
Yeah.
Now I want to tell you a little bit about each of the candidates, and then I want to talk just a little bit about the race. Monica Taylor, who could not be here today, but there she is in the center, beautiful. She is a PhD in exercise physiology. She's a professor at University of the Sciences. She is a sitting board member of the Upper Darby School District, which has one of the largest budgets in all of Delaware County. She also played basketball in college and professionally afterwards and coached, which has the cool factor too. She's fantastic. Christine Ruther, who is here in the back of the room. Is an attorney who specializes in tax and business advice. She is super smart and detail-oriented, and importantly has this deep breadth of knowledge of Delaware County past and Delaware County now, which is going to be extraordinarily important to us as we run this campaign, but especially when we govern. And she is also the chair of the Nether Providence Democrats, and has served on the Nether Providence Board of Commissioners. So again, a lot of experience. Myself, I'm an attorney. I served on the Radnor Township Board of Commissioners for 8 years. I now run a nonprofit that promotes the Schuylkill River and its heritage, and it has a little bit of economic development in our mission as well. The three of us cannot wait to get on this board and revamp Delaware County. You have heard allusions to how Delaware County has this machine. It literally has books written about it. They have had a chokehold since the Civil War on Delaware County. Now, when I first got involved in Delaware County politics, I thought this has got to be a little bit of political hyperbole, which we all know happens. I am here to tell you, as I've got into this, it is not hyperbole. It is unbelievable what we have uncovered as we have started this race. And I'm just going to give you a little snippet of an example. Our friend Jack, our next DA, did a right to know to find out how many solicitors, full-time solicitors, does our county have. Now, mind you, these are not lawyers who we hire to do some litigation for us, to advise us on a contract or a negotiation. These are full-time employees, pension benefit, the whole shebang. 21.
Oh my God.
21. And their combined income every year is $1.3 million. And these are jobs that we give to our friends. And almost every one of them has their own private practice as well. They are not full-time employees. That's just a tiny little example. It's really appalling. We are thrilled to get in there and make changes because the corruption is far and the corruption is wide. It's going to be a tough race. The opposing side knows that this is Custer's last stand. After the primary, we had a little glimpse of what their approach is going to be. They came out with one press release after the other. And shockingly, to me at least, their approach is going to be, no, we are the new Republicans, fresh faces. We will not be like those other guys. Please do not judge us on past council. Please do not associate us with current council. We are the new fresh face. You know what we say to that? No. We call BS. Especially because their chair of their party is Tom McGarrigle. He's the one calling the shots, and he was on county council for 8 years perpetuating this system. So no one is buying it. The voters are not going to buy it. However, the voters have to know about it. Mm-hmm. They have to know there's even an election. They have to know that this is going on and they're being hoodwinked by this charade. And that's on us, and that's where you come in, and anyone who is willing to help us. You all know what it takes. The time, the energy, the door knocking, the stamp licking, the money. It takes all of that to get the electorate to pay attention so that they don't get hoodwinked and so that we can have good government again. So thank you for having us. We're imploring you to help us, not to the detriment of Val and her gang, but we do need your help, and we have seen what you can do. So we will take anything we can get from you and put us in power so that we can bring good government back and we can lay the groundwork for making it all change in 2020.
Yes.
So thank you.
Before I introduce Nusrat Rashid, I do just want to say I'm not asking you to help Delco instead of Montco. I'm asking you to double your efforts and triple your efforts. You're going to help Montco like you never did before, and you're going to add in Delco. Okay?
Yeah. Woo!
And now I have the pleasure of introducing Nusrat Rashid, who's running for a judicial position in Delco. She will introduce herself, tell you about her, and I've known her for quite a long time.
Almost killed myself.
Thank you, Nancy, and it's really great to see everybody here, everybody who's worked so hard for politics here in southeastern Pennsylvania. I read the other day that a change in the status quo is the hallmark, the shining star of representative government. And someone once said to me that the judicial candidates, myself, Stephanie Klein, Rick Lowe, and Kelly Eckel, are going to change the status quo on the Court of Common Pleas. I don't buy that, because we're not going to change the status quo. We're going to make history in Delaware County. And history, changing and making history matters so much more than a simple change in the status quo. We want new voices, new perspectives, different backgrounds on the Court of Common Pleas to enhance and improve the administration of justice for all of the people of Delaware County.
Yes.
I prefer to be positive. I do not like to talk about what has not been done because I can't change that past. I prefer to talk about what we are doing and what we are going to do. So instead of saying there's never been a Democrat elected to the Court of Common Pleas, I want to tell you about the Democrats who are going to be elected to the Court of Common Pleas. And instead of telling you that no woman of color, no African American woman has ever ran for judge of the Court of Common Pleas or been elected to the Court of Common Pleas, I'm here to tell you that now she is. And instead of telling you that no Muslim has ever ran or been elected as a trial judge in this state, I'm going to tell you that now one is.
Yeah.
The people of Delaware County deserve real representation on the bench, no different from what our great state reps do, from what our county council members are going to do, and all of you municipal people who are running for office this year. There has to be diversity and balance and inclusion on the trial court so that the perception of bias and any real bias that may exist in judicial decision making is done with and thrown away forever. No more will judges be selected in a back smoke-filled room. Colleen told you about the ultra-democratic process that all of the candidates running for county office had to go through. It was grueling, it was tough, and my friends Jack and Elaine, I think, will concur with me on that. I emerged from that very difficult vetting process at the largest Democratic endorsement convention in history, with 88% of the committee vote, the largest in history. I emerged from a very, very tough, contested, and crowded judicial primary race with the highest number of votes among all 11 candidates. That's Democrat and Republican. What that tells me is that the people of Delaware County, the Democrats of Delaware County, and the Republicans who vote Democrat in Delaware County want real change. They want representation from the people sitting on the bench. I've been a trial attorney for over 20 years, my entire life. I've never represented companies, I've never represented corporations. I've represented average working people, just like me, who live in the community, serve the community, have solo practices in the community. These are the people that funnel and fuel our criminal justice system. And there has to be a representation of those people's ideals and values on the court. They want that. People are thirsting for confidence. They want to have trust that when they enter the courthouse, that the person on the bench at least wants to listen, at least wants to hear what they're saying, so that as a part of the entirety of representative government, the people always come first. Not politics, not deals, not patronage, and not favors. We can make that happen in Delaware County this year. I have no doubt in my mind. I am confident, my team is confident, Kelly, Stephanie, and Rick, that what the people deserve, what they want, we can provide to them as their public servants. The things that you do, the things that I've heard about you doing, the things that I saw you do during Jen O'Mara's campaign, the work that Nancy has done, those are the things that we need as a team. We need people to come out and help us knock doors. We need people to come out and make phone calls. We need people to spread our literature, because traditionally, judicial races in Delaware County are low information races. Well, nobody needs to know, because the candidates are handpicked and the majority of the electorate is Republican. So it's all about name recognition. So the judicial candidates, they go to some events, they go to some fairs and some municipalities, they shake hands and they kiss babies. Now we're going to do that too. But I think that more importantly, the name recognition for the judicial candidates who are running to serve in an office that affects people's daily lives need to know character recognition, value recognition, and idea recognition. And I say to you that the Democratic candidates have done and are fully prepared to show all of Delaware County who we are, what we have done, and what we intend to do for the benefit of the citizens of Delaware County. I ask you personally for your help and support, and on behalf of my whole team, thank you.
Okay, I gotta go really fast. So, what's my plan? Well, if we had a dozen fabulous grassroots groups, I would have each grassroots group pick a candidate for 2020 and then work backwards from there. But we might not have that, so I may have to spread the volunteers. You may have to spread yourselves a little thin, because we've got to protect 4 or 5 races, and we have to focus on winning a lot of races. So I'm going to try to tell you ways you can help, and from right now, and you just have to be really steadfast and make a commitment, make a real plan to do this. So you can't get someplace if you don't know where you're going. Well, you can, but that would be by accident. So let's try to do it by purpose. We want to win the presidency. We want to win the state legislature. We have to work in districts now that will help that happen. So I just want to say, when I first met Jen, I also knew nothing about campaigning. I went on Amazon. I ordered 8 books, How Do You Campaign? I skimmed through them. I learned things. And in the beginning, it was really just Jen and me and Brad. And I just spent a tremendous amount of time, because I didn't know Delco, learning about her district. Oh, 48% of people in Springfield are of Irish descent. Why does that matter? I don't know, but this is my belief. I think it's no accident. Stand up a second, Laura. That Jen's t-shirts are green. But anyway, I learned all about the district. We have to really, dig into the districts and start working now for the good of the district in general, but with our eye toward 2020. I also just want to talk about working from the bottom up. I just never realized this, but, for a democracy to work, intellectually I knew how fragile it was, but I didn't think I really understood. It's like a tree. And we have to get our roots in the ground. And where is that? With school boards, with row offices, with every single thing that engages citizens at a local level. And then it'll blossom out into branches, because we had the presidency, but the bottom of the tree and the roots weren't strong, and that's what we have to shore up. And I have Mary Gay in this photo because she did help all the candidates who worked in Delco in the local races. We have to work together. I don't know that, I just want to say, these are 4 people that I don't think I have time to let them tell their stories, but they were inspired, and now they're running for its commissioners, right? Yes, ma'am. Come on up real quick. It's got to be really quick. But I mean, one of them can speak for all of them very briefly, but I just want to tell you that the story I heard was, well, never mind, I'm going to let Rose tell the story real quick.
Just tell your story of how you met Jen.
So Jen, it was a cold February, and this past year, and Jen knocked on my door, and she spent a lot of time just talking to me. And she was walking around with this. Okay.
Don't embarrass me.
You have a colorful vocabulary. But I was so inspired. You know, she was so fired up, and nothing fires me up more than somebody who's so fired up. Mr. Wright, you are so fired up. And she's like, Rose, there's one thing that people keep asking me. Please find somebody to run against Lee. Well, she didn't just find somebody to run against Lee. She found somebody to run for all 4 open seats. And we're organized, we're committed, and we're out there and we're working. We're working for the county, and we're working for ourselves. And we're dedicated to flipping blue. We're dedicated to flipping Delaware County and Springfield.
So anyway, they're in Springfield, but you're going to be tripling your effort if you help them, because they're going to help elect the county council and flip Delco and Jen and work up. So thank you. Okay, wait, don't leave. But anyway, you can leave. I'm going to go so quickly. Guys, this is the meat of it. Door knocks. I really cannot tell you. Stand up, John, Laura, Allison, Steve, Angela, Papa. Stand up. Come on. I mean, listen. It's every people. It's Ed and Nancy Bleeden. It's Dan Sutton. I can't even think of everybody. These are people, some of them I don't want to give away too much, in their 70s. And they knock doors every single weekend. The postcards are cute, they're nice. The money is very important. Canvassing is the best thing you can do. Laura went to Bucks, to Chester, to Delco. She goes out like twice a week. It's meeting the person. It's the one-to-one contact. But really quickly, and I wish I went faster here, guys, money. If we don't have campaign finance reform, which we don't now, money is essential. We live in a very high-priced media market. We have to have money. And I'm asking, that's me, by the way. That yellow face is my eyes with the money. We need it early. I can't tell you how important it is when a candidate gets money early. It frees them up to do their legislative work if they're already elected and to go meet voters. The money is crucial. I hope when we take the majority, we change our campaign finance laws. But right now, it's so crucial. So one of the things I want you to write on the cards is if you could host a fundraiser. It's not hard. Even if you get 15 people there, I will help you. And write a check. Write a check to Delco Victory 2019. Write a check to Montco Victory. Write a check to the candidates that we have to protect.
Nance, I'll cater.
Pardon?
I'll cater.
Oh, okay, we have a caterer if you hold a fundraiser. So I just want to tell you really quickly, here's the 3 ways that you can donate money. Donate directly to the candidates or the PACs. Do it early and often. If I like it the best, but you have to know to whom you're donating. So that can be tricky. I know I'm rushing this, but here we go. Another thing is to do it like if you have money and you don't want to research all the possible stocks you can buy, you can invest in a mutual fund. Where something like PA Blue Victory Fund will give money directly to the candidates, to grassroots groups, and to sustain its efforts for many years, and they'll do the research for you, and you can give to them. So that's one other type of donation. And last, you can give to something like Turn PA Blue, which provides infrastructure to get out the vote and to turn PA Blue. And I do think after 2020, they'll have to change their name to Keep PA Blue.
Yeah.
While I'm talking, and I'm just going to talk for literally 2 more minutes, take those index cards. Write things down that you think I have completely wrong. Write things down that you're going to do or questions you have. But what I'm saying here is I need more people. I don't want to keep asking the same people for money. Well, I don't mind that much, but I would like to expand. Yeah, and I don't want to keep asking the same people to volunteer. There are new faces here. I just hope that you can see how important it is and that you've been inspired. Make a plan. Oh, I forgot to say something very important to me. This is about the presidential race. Some of you have made up your mind, but I would just like to say, if you haven't made up your mind, I would really like you to keep an open mind. And I would like you to think right now about who you think would make the best president, not yet who's the most electable. That we have time to figure that out. But figure first who you think would be the best president, because at this time, before 2008, no one thought Barack Obama would get elected, except he perhaps. And the day before the election in 2016, most people thought Hillary would get elected. So don't worry as much right now about who's going to get elected. Worry first about who would be the best person. But you can worry about the second thing a little later. But anyway, what I want to say is, it's amazing that 5 months before the next election and 1 year and 5 months before the 2020 election, so many of you are out here. Make a plan in your mind. You know, I'm going to put $20 a week into donating. I'm going to canvass 6 times before the November election. Make a commitment, and if you don't know how to make that come true, just ask me or put it on the card and I'll help you. I really wish you would write some things on these cards that are questions, ideas, suggestions. If you have a book club, I'll come talk to them and I'll make it 12 minutes, not 2 hours. If whatever you have, I will come and try to inspire them and answer questions. We really can do it, and I'm counting on each and every one of you, and thank you.
Well.